Welcome to the AOP podcast, Accelerating Operational Performance. And wow, today is the 50th episode of Accelerating Operational Performance. When you start a podcast, first of all, there's a lot of podcasts that end after a few episodes because it takes a lot of work. And I do want to give a big shout out to Suzanne Jakes, our marketing coordinator, who you can't see is behind the camera, makes these things look good, then puts them out there and takes all the clips as well. Rebecca Schinkel in our team as well. She does a lot of the social media posts from it. So 50 episodes, and since we do one every couple weeks, that's 100 weeks. That's almost 2 years of doing these. And I just want to say how much of an honor it's been, a pleasure for me to do it. I always thought it would be cool to do an interviewing podcast. And many of you also probably listen to our Leader Feeder podcast that Kirk Langford, our general manager, does. And it's awesome. And I love how Kirk is taking the reins of that. So this is really my chance to talk to people I find interesting and ask them things. And again, if you've listened to any of the other episodes, hopefully this isn't your first one. If it is, then you should really go back and browse the catalog. But we've had really people who are senior leaders in their organization, sometimes as high as the SVP or the CEO. We've had people from our faculty, our trainers who work for us or work with us at Unique Training and Development and Frontline Leadership Systems. We've had a very diverse set of folks, some from talent development, some from operations, some from engineering, some from the community at large. We had the former mayor of London, Ed Holder, as a guest. So anyway, it has been a very diverse cast that we've had on the podcast. And it made me think about, on the 50th episode, what are the three main themes that I could take from all these interviews. And so, as you probably know, as a regular listener, every once in a while I'll change up the questions, but a lot of times I'll ask similar questions. When were you successful? When did you struggle? And so discerning what we heard from all those different answers, I've got the top three things that we got from the AOP podcast. And I hope that these takeaways will help you as a synthesis of the value that we've been creating. So number one on the list is people versus technical solutions. And time again, when we ask people either what their greatest win was or what their greatest struggle was, almost always they would say that they thought that they could solve whatever the problem was. They often figured out the best technical solution, like what would actually solve the problem, only to find out that either they should have involved more people or they should have really taken the people side of the problem into account when they were solving it. So almost every strong technical leader recognizes that it shifts to being more about people as you go along. And in fact, now this is a sneak peek to future episodes, because I believe that culture is not an output in the business, it's an input in the business. And I'm going to draw that out at some point in a future episode, a little sneak advance warning of that one. So on the people side, we're really talking about people being the key instrument in your business that drives success. And the reason why people are important is because even in the era of AI and automation, people still have to run these systems and use their best judgment. And leveraging people, that is, getting their talents, finding out what they are, finding out what you're the strongest at as a leader and honing in on that so that you build a team success. But remember, it's about people. So every time you think that you've got the best technical solution and you go to impose it on a group of people, watch out, because it's probably not going to work well. Even if it is a good solution, they might just rebel because they weren't involved in it. And chances are, had you, embraced them a little bit more and involved them a bit more, you might have gotten better results. So it's a hard-fought lesson. I almost think everybody probably has to go into it thinking you've got the right solution, only to discover you really should have tapped into the wisdom of the crowd, right? Okay, that's number one. People versus technical solutions. Insight number two from our 49 episodes is success is a team sport. Now you might say, well, that's a lot like, insight number one there, Greg. And you're right, it is adjacent to it. But I think it's important that you realize that even though a lot of our society tends to play up the rugged individualist, right? That you have to be the one who has control and you're in charge and you've got to wrestle that control. The reality is almost all success in an organizational standpoint is a team dynamic, which begs the question, what's the health of your team? Right? And you might say, well, how do you measure the health of the team? Well, one indicator is, do people want to stay on the team or not? We had to submit a proposal. A big organization issued a request for proposal, or RFP. And I was really proud when I listed our team and I said, we have not had any I hadn't had any turnover actually in 24 months. And I go, that's a significant achievement. Think about in your organization, how many people have moved on or been restructured. And in fact, that change of stability really influences the culture of the business. So one thing to remember is that we need to ask for input. And remember that we're asking for input for two reasons. One is we know that sometimes we have the answer and we don't really need to ask anybody else's input. But by not asking for their input, we've denied two things. One is we've denied their input that might make the solution better. And the second thing is we've denied ourselves the chance to see and assess how people are thinking about the problem and its solutions. So when you ask people questions, you get greater buy-in, you get greater variety of answers, and you also start to build the team's discretion and their wisdom to solve problems independently, right? So we ask for input. Now, adjacent to that is asking versus telling. And if you've ever had us come in and do our team-based problem solving and decision-making session, we use a simulation. And in the simulation, one of the key things that the leaders learn is that when the leader speaks first in a problem-solving situation, the team generally just falls in behind them. They just go, well, Greg's decided this is the way we're going to go. So everyone kind of just goes, I guess that's what we're doing, right? And you might say, but what if it's a great solution? I said, well, if it's a great solution, then I suppose you're going to be okay. But again, see my previous point, which is we need to get people's buy-in and commitment. So we say the leader should speak last. So as a leader, do you ask good questions? And maybe adjacent to that is, do you only listen to the loudest and most confident voices when you ask a question? Has anyone got any solutions or ideas? Because the natural tendency is when someone states an opinion confidently, the brain goes, I guess that's pretty certain, and I guess that's a fact. I feel less certain, right? I talked to a former GM, general manager yesterday, who now is the COO, and he said, I was naturally introverted anyway, but he said, I realized that the tendency is someone who sounds really certain carries the conversation. And you might say, yeah, of course, Greg, if you're not certain and self-confident, why should I listen to you? Well, hold on a second. Think about some of the quieter voices on your team, the people who are a little bit more, maybe lack some of the self-confidence. Maybe they're newer on the team. Maybe they're just quieter. They're better listeners. And by you not saying, hey, you haven't contributed yet, I'm curious what your take is. Often it's that quieter person that brings either through a question or a comment something that completely upends what the team was thinking about doing. So your job as a leader is really to tamp down. You don't have to say that you don't want to hear from them, but you don't want to be carried away by your loudest, most confident voices. You want to raise up the other voices. By the way, the reason for that is in trying to find the most optimal solution to a problem, you need a lot of different points of view. And that means I need to make sure that I'm evaluating all these ideas, not based on how confident the person sounded, but on the merits of them. So anyway, success is a team sport. And by the way, accountants know this, lawyers know this, production people know this. At first, it's your technical skills that carry you up to your promotion. But at some point, like if you're a partner in a law firm or an accounting firm, and you might say, what are you talking about? You're just the manufacturing guy, the operational podcast. I'm just saying, as you go more senior in the engineering department, usually you start drifting away from the technical skills and it's more about the people skills. If you realize that your power to build a good team, a really strong team, will not only make you look good because the results will be good, but you're really helping people grow to their full potential. I said, and maybe in a previous podcast, but certainly I've said it in some of the sessions that I've taught, probably the hardest speech I ever had to write and give was my father's eulogy. Now remember, my dad sold me this business 34 years ago. Right. So, and then we worked together collaboratively for many years, and he passed a few years ago and I had to deliver his eulogy. And the one thing that I pointed out as the synthesis of his life, of this 91 years of existence. As I said, his knack was he could hold out a bigger future for people than they had for themselves. And I think if you as a leader can hold out a bigger future for people than they even can see for themselves, you'll be memorable in a positive way. You'll really make the world a better place and make the team better over time. So team success is a team sport. That's insight number 2. You're going, hey, didn't he say there was going to be 3? Yes. The third insight from 49 episodes of Accelerating Operational Performance is to dive in. Let me repeat that. The third insight is to dive in. What I think you heard from different people during the podcast, because this is what I heard, is they weren't always sure they were ready to take on a certain challenge. Or maybe they accidentally backed into doing something because of circumstances. And I think this lesson of diving in is important in 2 dimensions. First is, for you, it's important to take on a new challenge, especially if other people see potential in you. I know Megan Barter, when we had her on the podcast, said, really, it's not only her, but you need people to say good things about you when you're not in the room. You need people to advocate for you. So sometimes people are going to come to you and say, I think that you would be a good fit for this. And you're going, no way, I wouldn't be very good at that. And I want you to say, yes, I'm going to do that. I also think we heard that from Dean Crawford at Aspire MRO. He says, somebody else has seen it in you. You should just go for it. You should go and go after it, because some people are going to surround you with the help and support that you need. So don't be too dismissive. Don't say, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. If somebody sees it in you, they're going to support you in making that happen. So dive in. Now, here's the second part of diving in. I want you to look at your team. If you're a leader of any team, I want you to look for the potential in your team. I want you to do what I said my father was good at over his many decades, is I want you to hold out a bigger picture, or a bigger future for people than they may have for themselves. And I want you to hold that out even when you're not sure they're going to be able to do it, or even if they don't believe in themselves. And when you do that, you can have a deep, meaningful impact. So you need to present your people with challenges, things that they don't think they're capable of doing. And then you need to see them struggle through those things. And at the end of that struggle, you need to call it out and say, you crushed it. You did a great job, right? Remember, for yourself and for others, we're all in this multi-level, it's not a video game, but for you hipsters out there, let's call it a video game. But basically, leadership is a multi-level game. You start off at level 1 or level 0, barely being able to do stuff. You make a lot of mistakes. You have some successes. You evolve to level 1 or 2. You move on. I figure I'm maybe a level 4 or 5 business owner. But boy, I made mistakes. I don't want to go back to being the level 2 business owner, because the business was insolvent at one time, right? So for 20 years, we've had success since then. But man, did I made a lot of mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Your team's going to make mistakes. And if you're like, oh, I can't tolerate any mistakes, I just want you to know you're only seeing a small fraction of all the mistakes being made in your company every day. It's totally normal. It's part of the risk reward of running a business. So human beings also evolve over time. Sometimes we slip up and we go back, but the reality is we all are evolving. The person we are now is very different than the person we were 5 years ago, the person we were 10 years ago. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, that psychologists will often say that people, when they are asked to look back and think how different is your life today than it was 5 years ago, and how about 5 years before that, people say, wow, it's really different. But when people are asked to look forward into the future and say, how different will your life be in 5 years? Same old, same old. Not true. You're going to have a significant series of life events between now and 5 years from now. So is everyone on your team. So the question is, how are you inspiring them, developing them, giving them new challenges, putting them out of their comfort zone slightly, but with at least enough support that they don't slip into the panic zone, right? So dive in for yourself, help your team dive in. Help push the envelope, because that growth in the capability and confidence of your team is going to make a tremendous difference. I want to close by just saying how important it is for me that you've decided to give any of your attention to this podcast, I think, or any of the blog posts. Suzanne and Rebecca do a great job of putting out the content. Your attention is probably your most discretionary and most valuable resource. It's true as a parent, it's true as a leader. So where you put your attention matters. And the fact that you've chosen to give us a little bit of your attention, even if it's while you're working out, driving in the car, or just laying back, chilling a little bit, I just want you to say that your decision to invest in yourself and our ability to partner up with you to help you dive into your next challenge is truly an honor. It helps us achieve our vision. Our long-term vision is that nobody should work for a leader that doesn't help them move forward and grow. No more bad bosses, everybody. All right, so join with us in our movement. We look forward to many more episodes of Accelerating Operational Performance and our sister podcast, Leader Feeder, right? Your ability to influence other people in their success and their growth as a person, as a human being, it's an honor for you to do it, and it's an honor for us to partner with you. So I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for taking the ride with us.